Hi there, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 10:30 on this transfer deadline day. We are 30 minutes away from this transfer window closing at 11 p.m. Welcome to the Athletic HQ here in London, in England, and we are counting down to that 11 o'clock deadline. We have plenty coming up for you on this show. We'll be going all the way through the deadline and then reflecting on some of the big stories as well. We'll be finding out what's going on at Chelsea. Some big deals done today, more to come. West Ham, Nottingham Forest. Just stop, will you? Stop. Nottingham Forest will be keeping tabs on what's going on there. Fulham, Arsenal, Liverpool, Southampton, reflecting on the finances of the window as a whole. Leeds too. Big story involving Bamba Dieng and a potential signing at Leeds. Ended up going to Nice, and it hasn't gone to plan as we understand it. So we'll keep you posted on that. And plenty more besides. We'll be rounding up the stories in the EFL too. Let's bring in David Ornstein to kick off this final show. David, smartened up. Fantastic. Don't you look smart? It's great to see you. What we will start with is basically, I will just let you tell me what you know and what is developing, because there's so many stories flying around as we approach this deadline.
Oh, where to begin, Adam? Well, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is probably the headline act of deadline day in terms of the biggest name that's going to be moving. And that proposed transfer to Chelsea is almost done. They're just finishing off bits and bobs. But I do understand that the medical has been completed. And so now it's just down to paperwork and finalising the documentation and making sure that all of the agreements are watertight. Cross the T's, dot the I's, and get that one announced. Similar with Denis Zakaria from Juventus, the surprise deal of deadline day. That medical has been completed in Turin. The agreements are in place club to club and with the player. So it's just down to the registering of the paperwork with the relevant authorities. And we expect that one to have no hitches either. What else? Bamba Dieng, as you mentioned there, we're investigating. Well, we're making calls pretty furiously at the moment to understand if indeed the suggestions coming out of France tonight that his medical has been failed are correct. Now, we know that medicals are not passed or failed. You take a medical and you make a recruitment decision based on the outcome of those tests. So I've had one message saying that, that report is accurate, and another message saying, no, he's okay, a couple of complications, but it's going to be fine. So we need to get back on the phone to establish exactly what's going on there. And then I guess a bit of disappointment for Arsenal fans, depending on if they wanted this or not. Douglas Luiz, that third bid from Arsenal for the Aston Villa midfielder, has been rejected, and we're being led to believe that proposed transfer from Aston Villa to Arsenal is now not going to be going ahead.
Okay, David, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your time on this deadline day. Let's move swiftly on to bring in Liam Toomey, because obviously what was mentioned there about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang coming in, we're just waiting for it to be rubber stamped. Is that your understanding?
First of all, I can't follow that outfit from David.
No, I know. You're letting the side down, to be fair.
It's too late. Yeah, I think there will be no more surprises at Chelsea. We know what they're doing on deadline day. It's just a matter of getting everything over the line with Aubameyang and Denis Zakaria. Well, we'll have time to find that one out. But they went into today, wanting Aubameyang, wanting a midfielder. Of course, that midfielder could have been Edson Alvarez, but that approach was just a little bit too late for Ajax to sanction his departure. So it's going to be Denis Zakaria. And that ticks most of the major boxes, I would say, that Chelsea had going into this window. And I don't think Thomas Tuchel can say he hasn't been back now.
So the feeling is that this is a positive one, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang just sort of completes the puzzle, or is it still a little bit of a mixed box and we're not quite sure how it's all going to fit together?
I don't know if Chelsea could complete their puzzle in one window, to be honest. But I think at least positionally and in terms of the profile of player that they were looking for, they've addressed most of their urgent needs. They basically needed an entire new defence. They've signed 3 senior defenders at great expense. You get Raheem Sterling, who's a high-quality attacker that Tuchel wanted. You get most of those in good time, and then you get these late deals done, including some much-needed midfield reinforcement, given the injuries that Chelsea have in that area. I know a lot of Chelsea fans are going to be screaming at the screen, what about Billy Gilmore? Why couldn't Thomas Tuchel use him? But he'd made a decision that he didn't rate Gilmore essentially to play in this system. And so once you arrive at that conclusion, the club has to act accordingly.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I may have missed something. It happens a lot with me, but what's happened with Conor Gallagher?
Nothing. He's still in Tuchel's plans. There has been Premier League interest. We know that Crystal Palace were interested in bringing him back to Selhurst Park. There have been clubs interested in buying him, loaning him. Chelsea have shut it all down. Tuchel likes him as a player. I think there are question marks within the coaching staff about how he can adapt to being in a high possession team. It's going to be a big adjustment for him after his loan at Palace, but Tuchel really likes what he brings, and he will get plenty of minutes given the absences of N'Golo Kante and Mateo Kovacic.
Okay, Liam, thank you very much indeed. I am still looking forward to that photo of Todd Burley up alongside Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. We will see how it is all presented a little bit later on. Thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Just a quick reminder that if a deal isn't done by 11 o'clock, if teams have got in that deal sheet after 9 o'clock and prior to 11 o'clock, detailing the details of the transfer in as much precision detail as they can, then they do have an extra 2 hours to get that deal done. Been pretty busy at Chelsea, not so at West Ham. Roshane Thomas is alongside me now. Come on in, come and say hello. Now, were you expecting to be a little bit busier, sort of breaking news today?
Yeah, certainly today, because the priority for West Ham was to improve the defence, and he missed out on a number of targets. Jan Bednarek, for example, that looked like a done deal, but he opted to join Aston Villa. Much to the frustration of West Ham. They had a failed bid for Oloena, the Torino defender, of course. So it's been a great window for West Ham, but in terms of bolstering defence, definitely frustration. And
the knock-on effect, because obviously Bednarek, come a bit closer, he was going to come in, and Craig Dawson was going to head out, and that's not happened. So it's had a knock-on effect from his point of view, and also I suppose maybe the perception from his point of view is, well, okay, you don't fancy me anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Craig Dawson was supposed to join Wolverhampton Wanderers, and as you mentioned, that fell through. But based on the reaction I've seen on social media, a lot of fans are happy because, I have to correct myself, of course, he's not Craig Dawson, it's Balin Dawson. That's what he's known as by supporters. And a lot of them are happy because he's a fan favourite and they want him to stay. So hopefully, but between now and January, Craig Dawson can get back in the team and show why he was one of the first teams on the team sheet.
And is there the feeling now that there is the right balance in the West Ham squad?
Certainly the right balance, because when you think about West Ham last season in terms of finishing 7th and missing out on a place in the Europa League spot, that stemmed from having a lack of squad depth. A lot of personnel were tired towards the second half of the season. So now you have the likes of Emerson, Alphonso Areola, Scamacca, and what have you. There's definitely a strong belief that West Ham can achieve something special this season.
Roshane, brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for coming on. There is plenty more to come on this final live show here from the Athletic HQ. Just to round up a couple of the deals that we have already spoken about. Obviously, disappointment, as David Ornstein highlighted, regarding Arsenal and their proposed move for Douglas Luiz from Aston Villa. That deal is now looking as if it is not going to go through, despite raising up those bids to around about £25 million. And a couple of other quick deals. Obviously, we're keeping you posted on Aubameyang to Chelsea. Anthony was confirmed for Manchester United earlier on this morning. And then by the end of the day, they picked up another victory at Leicester City. Manchester City announcing that signing of Akanji as well from Borussia Dortmund too. We're going to be discussing Fulham Arsenal, a bit more detail. Liverpool as well. Southampton, Leeds. We'll get more from Phil Hay. So if you're Leeds fans, stay tuned. We will be hearing from the legend himself a little bit later on. Now let's check in with Paul Taylor, who I would have thought after this transfer window covering Nottingham Forest, you need a holiday, you need a long lie down, and it's still going on. What is still left to be done in this window, Paul?
Yeah, if I look tired, there's a reason. It's been a heck of an old window. There's still a lot to be done at Nottingham Forest. Remarkably, Willy Bolly became the 19th signing of the summer when he joined officially from Wolves earlier today. But there's still a number of irons in the fire. We're still waiting for a deal to be done for Loic Bade from Rennes. Josh Bowler is expected to join from Blackpool and then go out on loan to Olympiacos. Serge Aurier, there's still potentially a deal on the table to sign him as a free agent following his departure from Villarreal. And Michy Batshuayi is expected to join in some manner from Chelsea, whether that ends up being a loan move or some kind of agreement to come to an agreement over the remainder of his Chelsea contract to join Forest as a free agent. We'll see. It could be either of those things. But yeah, with the deadline coming up, there's still a lot to be done. But apparently the floodlights are on at the City Ground, so I'm imagining they're doing some sort of unveiling videos or some kind of thing like that for the announcement to be made very shortly.
Yeah, well, that is interesting. Well, yeah, well, they might just be lining them all up and sort of housing them. There's been so many of them arriving at the City Ground. Just give us a little bit more on this Michy Batshuayi potential signing. Obviously, we're expecting it to happen, but it's another striker in. Is it one too many, or do you think? And when you couple it also with some of the the attacking options, the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White, also Jesse Lingard as well, is this too much, or can you put this into some sort of vision and some sort of plan? Obviously, you're not going to have to do it. Steve Cooper's going to do it, but can you see the rationale behind all this?
Forest want 2 players for every position, and they've
got 5.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in terms of the attacking options, yeah, they kind of play. They have played with 3 up front on a fairly regular basis, so that they've got lots of different options to mix and match there. You've got Taiwo Awoniyi, who was the first signing of the summer, which seems like an age ago now, when he joined from Union Berlin for £17 million. You've got Brennan Johnson, who was already there, and the new additions that keep coming. Sam Surridge, there's been loads of loan interest in him as well. I'm told almost every single Championship club has asked about him this summer. Most interest came from Middlesbrough and Cardiff, but at the minute, it doesn't sound like he's necessarily going to go anywhere right at this moment. I think maybe he's more likely to stick around and maybe consider his options again in the future. But Forest, for definite, are not going to go short of attacking options, and it just seems a world away. Everything this whole summer has been incredible. When you look back at where they were a year ago, They hadn't won a game under Chris Hughton. They were at the bottom of the Championship table. And I know they've just got hammered by Man City, but they're still in the Premier League, and they've made, £150 million or so worth of signings, maybe a little bit more. And it's just a whole different world. The whole mood, the whole atmosphere, the whole dynamic has changed at Nottingham Forest. And as much as yesterday was painful, it's still been a pretty exciting ride, and I'm sure it will be for the next few months as well.
Yeah, and it's all part of the rich tapestry of life, I suppose. Yeah, being bottom and then now sort of rising up and having this exciting transfer window. But is there plenty of cynicism as well amongst the fan base of just thinking, hang on a minute, we see other teams come up and have trolley dashes like this, and when it doesn't go to plan and you have players getting relegated and they might not have relegation clauses, it can really sort of lumber the club with a potential amount of debt. I know that's getting ahead of ourselves because they might be a great success. But is there that worry amongst the fan base?
There's 2 things that are true here. The first thing is that Forest have made a heck of a lot of signings. They've made an abnormal amount of new additions. They have. There's no escaping that, as Steve Cooper quite often says. They probably could end up with 22 new additions this summer, which is enough for 2 entire teams. But at the same time, they lost a heck of a lot of players. There was 5 of the loan signings, players like James Garner, Jed Spence, Keenan Davis, really key figures. They went back to their parent clubs and weren't bought back. In all, there's probably been almost as many departures as there has been arrivals, and it has been a balancing up of the numbers, just to get a squad that's competitive for the Premier League. And Forest have done that. Emphatically, they've done that, and they've spent a lot of money to get to that point. As you say, there might be a certain amount of gambling involved in terms of the amount of money that has been invested, but Forest believe that they're not taking that much of a risk. They still feel like they're going to work within all the required limits, and I think they tighten their belts next summer. I wouldn't expect the same thing to happen again by any means, but I think they're going to have a real go at it this summer, just purely to try and stay in the Premier League and ensure that, having spent 23 years getting to this point, that now they're there, they don't let go of that Premier League position without a damn good fight.
Yeah, absolutely. They're giving it a really, really good shot. And it has been very interesting to see this as one of the subplots of this Premier League transfer window. Paul, we really appreciate your time. I will let you get back to counting up the signings and working out how you're going to do all this writing about all these new signings and telling the story of how they arrived.
Get myself an abacus, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice one. Thanks very much, Paul.
Thank
Have a
you.
great rest of your evening. So that is the situation at Nottingham Forest. Still plenty of deals still to be confirmed into the City ground. Just a little update, and David Ornstein sort of alluded to this a little bit earlier on regarding the Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang signing. We spoke to Liam Toomey as well. Simon Johnson, who also covers Chelsea for us here at The Athletic, says that there's still some minor details to sort out before Chelsea complete the Aubameyang deal. It doesn't sound like a major problem, though. Okay, coming up, we are going to be talking about Fulham and poor old Dan James. There is another situation on deadline day involving him. Peter Rutzler is going to be joining me very, very shortly. Aren't you, Peter? Yeah, he is. That was my way of just telling him to get off your laptop and come over here. And we will also be speaking about a whole host of other things on this show, which is building up. Oh, we've only got 13 minutes to go until the deadline, the 11 o'clock deadline. Peter, hello. Come over onto my right-hand side, if you wouldn't mind. I want to highlight my best side. Yeah, if only. Right. Let's deal with the situation at Fulham, because there is still activity. There is still things going on. And I mentioned
right now, yeah.
Sorry, go on. Tell me what's happened.
Just confirm that Carlos Vinicius is signed.
It is done.
It is done. It is announced. It's official. He signs for £4.25 million on a 3-year deal with an option of a further year.
Fantastic. So that's done. We knew that was happening. We knew that was happening, and it's another vital addition to Marco Silva's squad. Let's deal with the situation with Dan James. We're going to be speaking to Phil Hay about the Leeds end of this situation. But what's your understanding about where he is, what he's doing, and how much sympathy we might need for him?
Well, hopefully we won't need any sympathy for him. However, he's been at Motspur Park Fulham's training ground. He's completed a medical ahead of a season-long loan, we understand. And now he's essentially just waiting for the green light. I think the sense is it will be okay, but while the wait goes on and we get closer to that deadline, it's getting closer, isn't it? There'll be those memories of obviously that failed move from Swansea to Leeds. Now, if for Leeds to then pull the plug on him going to another club in the same circumstance, that would be particularly painful, I think. But let's see, keeping on top of it. But I'm sure Phil will fill you in on the background in terms of what Leeds have been doing with Bamba Dieng, trying to bring in some options for themselves as well before James could leave. But all being well, James will be a Fulham player, a much needed Fulham player. He can bring something that most of Fulham's, I think, attack line probably don't have in the same way, in out and out pace. So it would be a really good option. So fingers crossed for him and for Fulham that it gets over the line.
Yeah, and in terms of the promoted sides, obviously we were just talking there about Nottingham Forest. Fulham are hasn't been no one has been as active as Nottingham Forest, but Fulham have done enough business to not only strengthen their squad, but also keep Marco Silva happy as well, because he was whinging a little bit at the beginning, wasn't he? That the activity wasn't sort of gathering pace as he would like, but it's kick-started, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was a slow start to the summer, and Marco Silva was unhappy about that. But Fulham have made a lot of changes this summer. They released a few players at the end of the Championship season. They lost a couple of key players in Fabio Carvalho and Andre Frank Anguissa as well, who I think they wanted to keep too. They brought in replacements. I think providing Dan James goes through as well, it'll be 11 signings this summer, which again is a large number, but it was needed. And they brought in some good additions as well across the team. You know, we talked earlier about João Palhinha and the impact he's had, transformative in midfield. Bernd Leno's come in and brought some quality in goal. And then they've got some good defensive options as well now. And the team itself has been performing really, really well, and that's really helped too. I think coming into today, it was just about getting some backup options in attack as a priority, because with Manuel Solomon, a new signing who we haven't really seen, but is very highly rated. He picked up a knee injury just after signing. Harry Wilson's got a knee injury as well. So just getting some attacking options, which we should get in with Willian, of course, a good depth option, I think. With
Premier League experience.
A lot of it, absolutely. And to be honest, Premier League experience has been a key theme of Fulham's recruitment. You know, they've not gone for the sort of younger players. They've gone for players who have been in the Premier League or top flight experience. We saw that with Liven Kazawa, who's just come in today, a left back who's won 5 league titles with PSG. So he's trying to just upgrade the quality and experience level of the team to compete. And so far, the signs are good. Now it's just about seeing if they can get Dan James in.
Indeed. We will find out. And if it is all done and sealed and everything, pop back over and let us know. If we don't see you again, happy deadline day and happy birthday, Peter Russell.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday to you. What a way to spend your birthday. Oh, yeah. Oh, bye-bye now. Okay, right. Moving swiftly on. I've lost my train of thought. No, I haven't. Here we are. We are going to go straight back in and speak to James McNicholas, who is no longer in the newsroom with us. He is back at home in his humble abode. And unfortunately, it's not gone to plan as far as Douglas Luiz is concerned. Is that correct? Is it all off?
I hesitate to ever say anything too definitively on transfer deadline day, but it certainly looks that way, Adam. 8 minutes to go at this point in time. Arsenal made a third offer for Douglas Luiz of £25 million. I have to say that was the figure that Arsenal sources indicated to me earlier in the day. It's kind of where Arsenal's valuation peaked for Douglas Luiz with 12 months remaining on his contract. They went to that 25 million as I expected they would. But Aston Villa have proved intransigent. You know, they said from the start of the day, the player's not for sale. He's not going anywhere. I think Arsenal suspected that was a bargaining position, and they've tried Aston Villa 3 times. Aston Villa have said no. And I think, yeah, it looks extremely unlikely at this point in time. And to be honest, I think that's probably the right thing. When you look at the player, the contract situation, I think a valuation above that would probably be a little bit steep, in my opinion, for Douglas Luiz at this particular point in time. The issue is, of course, it leaves Arsenal light in central midfield. They were light going into this deadline day. They've tried to do a deal, 24 hours notice, ultimately come up short. And it's going to be a testing period for them because they're not accustomed to playing twice a week as they're going to have to. And the squad looks a little bit thin in that area of the park. So that will be the big concern for Arsenal fans coming out of deadline day.
You say a big concern. Is it? I mean, do you sort of think, well, enough around that sort of backup position is going right that you can cope with it? It's not the end of the world, is it?
Well, only on transfer deadline day can you get the fans of a team who've won 5 games on the bounce and are top of the league furious. But it does happen in football, as we all know. I think there is a lot going right at Arsenal, and I think in time and with perspective, I think the quality of player they've acquired in this window will speak for itself. I think Arsenal have improved the starting 11, certainly in this window, by adding Gabriel Jesus, by adding someone like Zinchenko, by bringing Saliba back from loan. They have a very high quality squad. The issue is it's a lean squad. And there are a couple of areas of the park, particularly central midfield and the wide forward position, where I think they are a little bit lighter in terms of depth than they would like. So, you know, last season, for example, they paid for some injuries in key positions towards the end of the season. It cost them pretty dear. They're going to have to be quite sort of fortunate, really, if they get to avoid that situation happening again. It's going to be a really interesting period. And I do wonder as well what this might mean, just throwing things forward for the January window. I'm intrigued to see how that window plays out. In the Premier League, you know, there's going to be a World Cup before then. There's a bigger break. I do wonder if that window may feel a little bit more like a summer window than some previous January windows. And if Arsenal get to that point, I can see them having to make additions, because there are two areas of the squad, central midfield and wide forward, where they didn't quite get the business done that they hoped to do.
Brilliant, James. Thank you very much indeed. Take care. Thanks for joining us. Just 5 minutes to go until the transfer deadline is reached at 11 o'clock here in the UK. Welcome on board wherever you are watching from around the world. We are live on Twitter, on YouTube and Facebook. As you can see, the newsroom here at The Athletic is still buzzing, and there is still plenty of activity behind me. The news team is still hard at work gathering all the news and bringing it up to speed right on the transfer deadline day live blog. Leading the charge on that is Amitai Winehouse, our news editor here at The Athletic. I'm beckoning him with my voice, and he is on his way over. Sorry to pull you away at this very, very important time. 5 minutes to go. How are we looking on some of the key deals?
Well, I like the idea that we gather news as if it's like wheat in a field or something like that. Yeah, we're still waiting for Aubameyang. Still waiting for Chelsea to confirm the loan signing of the midfielder whose name escapes me at this exact moment. Zakaria. Yeah. There we go. I think we're going to have a slight Leeds update in the blog about a player they went for after the deal for Dieng failed. Okay. But it doesn't sound like that's going to get over the line. I think people should check out the blog in a minute. Is the way I'm going to say that. You haven't
pressed send yet.
We've not pressed send on that one yet. Just waiting on a few things. But I think things will get done, or they'll go to a deal sheet, which is, of course, the thing that most people don't know about, but most Premier League clubs use at this point. Still a few deals to go through, basically.
We spoke to David Ornstein, who was sort of chasing details on the Bamba Dieng situation in Nice. And it's a sensitive situation as well, because you, like he highlighted, you don't necessarily fail a medical. Yeah. In terms of what's happening on that, are we any closer to the truth at this stage? No.
I guess the sort of proof in the pudding of this one will be whether Nice announces signing or not, basically. Yeah. I'm sure David said on this broadcast that, even if someone has a difficult medical, it can just mean it's an opportunity for a club to renegotiate a deal or put clauses in or this or that. So, yeah, I would suggest that we won't know anything until he either moves or doesn't, basically. It does sound like Leeds might have benefited slightly by him not joining in a sense, but you never know. He could have some issue, he could not, and it could still work out for Nice.
Okay, brilliant. I'll let you head back and press send on that update on the Leeds situation. So we are 3 minutes away from 11 o'clock. And just that quick reminder about the whole deal sheet situation. Most of the clubs that are trying to negotiate these deals, and there's players at training grounds at the moment. There are probably still players sort of heading towards medicals and things like that. Clubs after 9 o'clock, once they submit a deal sheet, they can do it after 9 o'clock, but they have to do it before 11 o'clock. So I would have thought there's a fair amount of admin staff behind the scenes at football clubs. If they have got this deal that they think is going to be done, they have to get it in, that deal sheet, to the Premier League within the next 2 minutes. And then they will get an extension if all is accepted and they've signed in the right boxes, etc., that they can then go on till 1 o'clock in the morning, and they will be able to then hopefully complete that deal. And that's why often you see deals not necessarily announced when they're done on deadline day. Some are left until the morning after. And as we know, there are so many social media teams involved now that want to make sure that their announcement videos are the best announcement videos as well. And they may well take a little bit of time and get it done properly. So it'll be interesting to see the likes of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang if Chelsea decide to just announce it when it's done this evening. If it is done, we're hoping that it will be done for Chelsea's sake, or if we wait until tomorrow and then there's a proper announcement. And let's not forget, there are games coming up at the weekend as well. It's Thursday today. We're almost into Friday, and then we'll be back into the Premier League action. And we are about to hit the deadline here in the UK. In England, 11 o'clock is the deadline, of course, and it is also closing in Spain. We're also going to see the deadline reached in France as well. Earlier on today, It was hit in Germany at 5 o'clock and in Italy at 7 o'clock. So we'll just wait for the clock to tick over to 11 o'clock. So at least we can mark it with a hooray. Do we get a little hooray in the background that we have reached 11 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen? There we are. Yes, we are finally at 11 o'clock on this transfer deadline day, Thursday, the 1st of September. I'm going home now. See you later. No, I'm not. Right, we're going to carry on and we will find out exactly what's going on with various deals that are yet to be confirmed. Kiva O'Neill is here. Come on in. Yeah, yeah, if only there was one. In terms of Liverpool's activity, deal done and sort of hole filled in the midfield, which was needed from Liverpool fans.
Yeah, definitely. Signed, sealed, delivered. Liverpool have a midfielder. What fans have been crying out for all window, it seems, for my whole life, pretty much. Yeah, so Artur has arrived from Juventus. Obviously, he flew to Liverpool this morning to complete his medical. Obviously, that all went through okay. And obviously, in the last hour or so, he's been announced as a Liverpool player. And it has emerged that Liverpool do have an option to buy him in Juventus' statement that's come out. So Liverpool can buy him in the summer for 37.5 million euros, I believe. And the loan fee will be 4.5 million euros. So it's going to cost Liverpool, obviously, to bring him in. And yeah, it's going to be exciting to see sort of how he fares, because he seems like a player that sort of is a little bit in that Thiago mould. And obviously when Thiago doesn't play for Liverpool, you know, he's very much missing. So I think that'll be important just to get another midfielder in, particularly given obviously Jordan Henderson getting that injury last night against Newcastle.
Obviously, you know, Liverpool usually get their business done early, and they did do other business earlier on in the window. But I suppose it does show that they have got things prepped and ready to go, and it almost feels like the perfect fit. That they can react when they needed to and get this deal done. It shows that they were almost sort of, he was waiting in the wings almost.
Yeah, this is not like Liverpool, but at the same time it kind of is, because, you know, they're filling a gap. I guess people called it a stopgap, a short-term fix. And it feels kind of like it is that way. You know, whether Artur will play for Liverpool beyond this season is unknown, you know. Obviously, he'd have to be pretty exceptional, I think, in his short spell here. Obviously, he's got a season to prove himself and see, you know, whether he can make the grade at Liverpool, and indeed they'll go on to sign him. But I think, you know, for Liverpool to have reacted, they needed to react. And obviously, Henderson's injury, I've mentioned, I think that just sort of pushed them over the edge a little bit. We know that they've been monitoring the market for the past few weeks, trying to sort of, you know, see if an opportunity would arise. And it just, you know, this felt like the perfect one for them. And I think it's just going to be interesting to see how he slots in. Obviously, Liverpool play Everton at the weekend. Merseyside derby is quite a nice way to start your career.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a baptism of fire, I think it's known as. And just a final point, in terms of, you know, him now sort of hitting the ground running, being part of that Liverpool side, in terms of like the integration, it's happened so well and so healthily at Liverpool. I guess he will just sort of slot in and it will be seamless, do you think?
I think it will, with players like Roberto Firmino, who you'll know from the Brazil national team. Obviously, you know Fabinho as well, and be used to, you know, training and playing alongside him. Although Fabinho doesn't play as many games as Liverpool fans would like for Brazil. I think, you know, he'll definitely already, you know, be settling in. You're already seeing from, you know, the club's TikToks and that kind of thing. He's already making himself a home. And, you know, it is important to Liverpool, the kind of characters that they bring into the club. And I think he'll definitely seem to just sort of slot into that straight away. And I think that's one of the key things, you know, if you can make mates, it's always a good thing on the pitch, isn't it, as well?
And just very finally, obviously we're covering, you know, in depth on The Athletic on this deadline day, you know, via the live blog and things like that. But obviously what sprouts out of deadline day is plenty of stories. When will we be able to read something a little bit more in depth on Liverpool's new signing?
Well, there's a story right now you can read on The Athletic by James Pearce, which just goes behind the deal, you know, events which have taken place from last night throughout the day. That sort of gives you, you know, an insight into sort of the past, it feels like 24 hours, but it feels like 12 hours at the same time, you know, this sort of crazy transfer that's happened. You know, nobody expected this, so that'll give you all the details. And then tomorrow morning you can read a little bit more, a piece that I've put together with Mark Carey, our data guru, on just sort of like, you know, what Artur will bring to Liverpool's midfield, where he'll fit and that kind of thing. So yeah, that does all quite bode well. But obviously, you know, playing for Liverpool's quite a difficult thing, so it might take him a few games to hit the ground running.
Perfect. Kiva, thank you very much indeed. So Kiva has been writing about it, and also James Pearce as well. Check that out on The Athletic at the moment, theathletic.com. And of course, our lovely partners here at The Athletic is Tifo. And you remember earlier on, I went behind the scenes on the making of their new video all about Artur Melo, the arrival from Juventus. Well, this is the end product. And this is John McKenzie just giving us a little bit more detail on the new signing at Anfield.
Artur going to fit into this team? Well, we've talked a lot about how Jurgen Klopp's midfield have developed during his time at Liverpool. It used to be the case that they would play really high, aggressive, gegenpressing football, but as time wore on, they realised they needed to control games more, and so they brought in Thiago Alcantara to actually help them control the ball a little bit better so that they weren't just facing turnovers all the time. And through time, what we've seen actually is Liverpool in possession look closer and closer to something like a 4-2-4. So in this iteration, your defensive midfielder pushes up alongside one of the eights, and then the other eight then will push forward into this area here and form something of a front four here. And with Thiago, what we've seen is that he loves to inhabit this half space here. We call this the half space. And what happens is that he's able to get on the ball if teams are deep lying. So let's put a few defenders on here. Let's say that teams are lying really deep in the box and Liverpool aren't able to break through. Thiago can get into these sorts of areas and play these really nice balls over the top, maybe through balls as well. And he's a really creative passer in that sense. And I think it's worth saying as well that with Thiago getting older, the expectation then is that Artur will be used in the same way. Now, Artur is not quite the creative passer that Thiago is, but as we've already said, Artur does have the ability to ball carry a little bit as well, so that will maybe give him a slightly different option on this side. It maybe changes the way that Liverpool play a little bit. The other thing that could happen is that, let's say Thiago comes back in and Artur is then shifted across to the other side. We could see him in this more advanced role in the midfield where he can push into these sorts of areas and create from there. He does have that ability as well.
So there we go. That is John McKenzie just giving you a little bit more detail on the new Liverpool signing, Artur Melo. You can see the full video of that is now up on YouTube, and all of the videos that Tifo do. After games in particular, there'll be another one incoming at some stage on this evening's victory for Manchester United at the King Power Stadium against Leicester, and on other new signings that have been made as well. So look out for those and all the great work that Tifo do. Right, Amitai Winehouse has returned, our news editor here at The Athletic. And you were promising a bit of news regarding Leeds. Just come alongside me, square yourself off. There you go. There you go. No, you're right. Right. So what's happening then?
So I've got two updates for you.
Okay.
So the thing I was promising was that so Leeds have showed an interest in Ben Brereton Diaz, but were put off by Blackburn's valuation of him. They wanted between 15 and 20 million for him, and that was not a move that Leeds made, basically. So that there's nothing in that going forward. But Phil Hay is now hearing from multiple sources that there's interest in Wilfried Gnonto of Zurich, who's a forward. He's an Italy international, and Leeds think there might be a way to do a deal for him now. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's the latest on Leeds.
And just a quick one, that's obviously a knock-on effect of missing out on Bamba Dieng. Just remind people that might be joining in on exactly what's happened on that so far.
Yes, it's been a bit of a chaotic day for Leeds. Victor Orta flew to Holland to try and get a deal over the line for Cody Gakpo, which didn't pan out. He's staying with PSV Eindhoven. They then moved for Bamba Dieng, who instead decided that he wanted to move to Nice. And the latest we've heard of that is reports from France, which suggested that he might have failed his medical or not completed his medical at least. So, yeah, not really clear on the state of play there, but Leeds aren't going for him. It looks like it's now Gnonto from Zurich.
Okay, brilliant. Amitai, thank you very much. Pop back if there's anything else popping in the next few minutes. Okay, so we've brought you up to speed with the latest on Leeds and a new name on the horizon, Ben Brereton Diaz. That signing was a potential, but it doesn't seem to be happening as we speak. Just in the last couple of moments, new signing has been confirmed at Southampton. We were expecting it, of course. Kaleta Carr has arrived from Marseille. And Jacob Tanswell has been covering Southampton for us in depth, of course, on The Athletic. I think he is around somewhere. There he is. He's making his way over here just as the deal drops. So, Jacob, the deal is done. It has just been confirmed. It's more good news, more good business from Southampton.
Yeah, big news. It's really important that Southampton got that centre back over the line. Obviously, Jack Stevens went to Bournemouth earlier today. Jan Benrick as well, gone to Aston Villa. So they needed a centre back. And I know there's reports earlier today that West Ham lodged a late bid for him, but Southampton were always confident of getting him. And they got him 11 o'clock, bang on the deadline.
Yeah, no need for a deal sheet or anything like that. Very efficient.
Thank God. Yeah, luckily for me, yeah.
And in terms of other business that Southampton have done, I mean, is that them? That's them done and dusted.
Yeah, that's them done. I think ideally they wanted a striker. Of course, they wanted Cody Gakpo last night. That didn't materialise. And then since, they should be focusing on the targets they had, within their reach, really. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Samuel Aduzi, and these were key signings. These were players that fit into the ethos. And, they spent a net of 70 million and they've not sold anyone. And that's really rare for Southampton because they're used to having to sell to buy. So, yeah, it's a good change of direction and hopefully they can kick on from here.
Yeah, that double signing from Manchester City, getting that done. And it's almost like a sort of a reunion as well with three players now all knowing each other.
Well, Southampton's head of recruitment is Joe Shields, and he came from Man City, so he knows them really well. But in Aduzi's statement afterwards, was he signed? He said that he's seen Lavia, seen Gavin Bazunu play, and they're playing regular football. They're starting, they're trusted by Ralph Hasenhüttl, and that's the USP that Southampton want, and hopefully the reputation they forge.
Brilliant. Jacob, thank you very much. It's great to have that deal done at 11 and you can think, right, that's us done. That's great. Great news. So many times that there will be occasions where you get to a transfer deadline day and you think, nothing's happening. And then, oh no, they're doing some business. And it seems as if that's what's happening at Leeds. So it may well go deep into the night for the likes of Phil Hay, for example. Let's bring in another Phil if we can. And just take on a little bit of an offshoot from transfer deadline day, and we can sort of look back at the finances of this transfer window. Phil Buckingham, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm very well. How are you still standing?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. You do start to go a little bit delirious at this time of evening, but it has been a good day. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great here, and people working so hard behind the scenes throughout the day. Couldn't do it without them. Let's just talk about the finances from this window, because obviously, a lot of the time we've sort of reflected on the last few windows, which has had a bit of a hangover from the pandemic and things like that, and the financial hits that clubs have had. What does this window tell us about the Premier League's financial strength in comparison with the other big leagues?
Well, ultimately, it's unrivaled and it's getting stronger every year. I think the collective spend of the Premier League this summer is going to be in the region of 2 billion, give or take a few pence. Now, if you add Bundesliga, La Liga, and Serie A together, it isn't going to get to that. So the Premier League is spending more than its European rivals combined. Even if you put it in contrast to this time last year, I think that the sum was around the 1.1 billion mark. So these are Premier League clubs with cash on the hip, and they're all willing to spend it just about. I think with a possible exception of Leicester, everyone has shown a willingness to roll the dice this summer.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Obviously, that one of the stories from today, Brendan Rodgers has been speaking about Leicester's sort of lack of activity and sort of fighting his corner a little bit. They obviously saw Wesley Fofana leave. People were expecting them to spend a lot of money in response, but the ownership have been hit by, the pandemic ultimately, and working in travel and tourism and things like that. So why do you think that other areas of the Premier League have been able to just sort of get back on the bike and go again, almost with the spending?
Well, every club will be different, won't they? But I think everyone would have expected Chelsea and Manchester United to be among the biggest spenders this summer. One needed a complete rebuild, one under new ownership. I think we all expected Tottenham to probably have a go, and Arsenal as well. But we're probably seeing the sort of rise of the aspiring clubs in the spending stakes now. You look at West Ham and the money they spent this summer, way over 100 million. Same for Newcastle, obviously under their Saudi ownership. And then you've got Nottingham Forest, which is a remarkable sum to part with as a newly promoted club. But it just underlines the value now of everyone's got their own ambitions, but if you look at a club like Nottingham Forest, the value of staying in the Premier League is immense. And I think, as Paul Taylor mentioned earlier, having waited this long for Premier League football, they're determined not to let this opportunity pass them by.
Now, I mean, you mentioned right at the top there that we don't know the full amounts yet, because there will be some final deals that are going through as we speak, and that those final funds will obviously inflate the figures. But have you got the sort of the working figures in terms of who has spent the most and who has, unfortunately for their fans, not been spending at all?
Well, fag packet maths, which is my favourite type of maths. We've obviously got Chelsea leading.
Behavior, isn't it? It's got to be. It's got to be.
We've obviously got Chelsea leading the way, led the way across Europe now this summer. You've got Manchester United not far behind. Then you've got a cluster of English clubs: West Ham, Newcastle, Forest, Spurs. I believe that the top 6 spenders in Europe this summer are all from the Premier League. But I think in total you've got eight different Premier League clubs have spent over 100 million this summer, which is remarkable, really. Other end of the spectrum, obviously, we've talked about Leicester and the difficulties they faced this summer. Took them till the final day to finally spend. Then you've got Bournemouth, Palace, and probably top of the class, you'd think, for an accountant anyway, Brighton this summer, the money they've brought into the club through sales and haven't spent an awful lot of money. They're the net spend kings this summer for sure.
Okay. Phil Buckingham, thank you very much indeed. Great work as always. And you'll be able to read sort of a full comprehensive account of the finances and great analysis from Phil on The Athletic. That'll be coming up in the next couple of days once all the figures are in and they've been pulled apart by Phil and all our team here at The Athletic, not only covering the game on the pitch, but also the finances off it. And obviously today the focus is on the transfers, which are at the centre of transfer deadline day. Just a quick note that has just broken. Hector Bellerin has officially joined Barcelona, and he sent a message to the Arsenal fans to say goodbye. Obviously, he's been out on loan in Spain of late. There was some talk that he was going to be heading to Real Betis once again, but he is going to be going to Barcelona to continue his career. Right, so we've been talking about European football there. Domestic football in the Premier League, a big focus on that, and then the finances as well. We also cover the EFL here for The Athletic, as well as the other European leagues. Michael Bailey, I think, is sitting there. Bringer, there you are. You're right there. Isn't that amazing? Fantastic. Oh, it's like pantomime.
Well
right.
done.
Thank you.
You're still going?
I am still going. Yeah, I'll take my batteries out at some point and just hang myself up by the back of my head. So let's talk about the EFL. Obviously, we are sort of ultimately we do cover the two incredibly talented EFL teams in Watford and Norwich. Incredibly talented by being able to go up and come down all the time.
Bounce.
Yo-yos, they are absolutely fantastic. The lights have gone off.
The lights. They need
dear.
some of your energy.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see if we can put them back on, but it's all right. We're sort of fittingly being kept in the dark.
We're
it's
in
fine.
a very warm light now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Right, so tell us what has been going on in terms of the things that have stuck out to you in the EFL.
Yeah, it's probably worth saying these are the things that have stuck out to me. Let's just narrow it down. But I think I've maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I've been quite interested with the business Ipswich have done in League One. They've signed Paniche Kamara from Plymouth for £500,000, which is quite a lot given some of the investment that hasn't gone on at Portman Road recently. Signed from Plymouth, 25-year-old midfielder. He's very versatile. He gets about the pitch, and I think he's a kind of signing which I think gives them a real platform to do something which they haven't looked like doing in recent years, which is getting out of the third tier. I think Kieran McKenna's doing a cracking job as it is, and just a really eye-catching sign that they've managed to get him out of a club that would have been a promotion rival last season. So that one caught my eye. I said it with a straight face. Having covered Norwich, I hope the Norwich fans forgive me. And they've also signed a striker from Burton in Ghassan Ahadme, who was a Norwich under-23 player. So another one where you can see the youth in their recruitment and what they're trying to do. So as I say, it kind of backs. I think they might have a good season this season,
Mhm.
which I think I'm allowed to say.
Yes.
Eye-catching that Matty Longstaff has joined Colchester United. He was on loan in League Two, I think, last season with Mansfield. So I get the sense he's kind of battling to really, revive his career. And Colchester will be an interesting proposition for him to do that. So that was quite eye-catching. Blackpool fans, I'm sure, will be a bit disappointed they've lost Josh Bowler, who has gone to Nottingham Forest and then been loaned out immediately to Olympiacos, which is maybe no surprise. I don't know.
Well, it's another interesting development at Nottingham Forest, that there has been that sort of, channel that they can push players through. So yeah, it is another interesting one. He was wanted by a fair few clubs as well.
Indeed, I'm not sure it's been confirmed as yet, so we'll see if that gets done. Whichever. One move that is off is Birmingham have been trying to sign Kabongo Shimanga from Chesterfield, who are not in the EFL, but Shimanga would have been, of course, if the signing, but that has fallen through right at the death through a failed medical, is what's being steered. I think there's a little bit of skepticism over that reasoning, but I'm sure Chesterfield fans will be delighted because he's done so well there in recent years and leads their line really well. And then I guess the other thing is, sometimes when you're in an EFL club, keeping hold of your players is all you want to do. And I know Amatai just mentioned about Leeds, but clearly Blackburn have also had to fend off interest from Everton and from Fulham in terms of Ben Brereton Diaz, and they'll probably have the same fight in January, but at least they've got him until then. And hopefully they'll still be promotion contenders come that point.
Michael, thank you very much.
Right?
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do?
What's that?
I'm going to ask for your expertise here.
Got a back rub.
And no, what I'm going to do, we're going to try and move round over there if we can, because we are having a couple of issues with our lights. So I'm going to move round here, and we can follow me round. I think let's see if we can do this. Here we go. We're on the move. Yes, we are. We're on the move. It is deadline day and it is live. And there we are. We're just moving around here into a little bit of a better lighting situation. Maybe, I think it's probably a little bit better. So we have talked about the EFL. Thank you very much to Michael. We have overcome slight issue with the lights, and we do have one of our most popular reporters on The Athletic, hopefully waiting to speak to us as well in Phil Hay, because lots has been going on with Leeds. We will speak to Phil Hay in a moment, but I understand that David Ornstein is back and he's available to speak to us once again on this deadline day. What is it now? 22 minutes after the deadline has passed. David, great to see you once again. So there is still stuff that hasn't been sorted out. Just give us a bit of insight into the things that need to be ticked off on your list, so before you can go to bed.
Well, I think I'm pretty much done. I'm going to leave it to my esteemed colleagues, because it's really about the clubs now, just sort of finalising bits and bobs. And I don't know, the most notable stuff that I've been working on today includes Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I think he's been at Cobham tonight, finalising that transfer to Chelsea. So the medical appears not to have presented any late challenges, and so they'll just work through the paperwork, get it submitted. Well, presumably they already have. We haven't heard to the contrary, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang will, by the sounds of what I hear, be very happy to join Chelsea after what's been a difficult 6 months, certainly more recently at Barcelona. You've got Dennis Zakaria. I know Liam was trying to pronounce that, and me too. So that's one that's very similar. Medical done, and let's see where we're up to with the paperwork. Phil will talk to you about a Leeds situation that appears to be going on very late into the night. And I've just actually put out some news, and people can read the story on The Athletic, that Ben Brereton Diaz, who Michael mentioned just there, subject to 2 bids rejected from Fulham in the last 24 hours or so of the window. And actually Leeds United showed some late interest. They explored the possibility of signing Brereton Diaz. right at the death. They would have been prepared to do it, I'm told, but not at any expense, at what they felt to be a right price. And Blackburn's valuation of 15 to 20 million pounds has not only put off Leeds, it's put off every single suitor. Maybe they're banking on him leading them to the Premier League, but he's out of contract in 2023. He has no intention, we're told, to sign a new deal. That means he can negotiate with overseas clubs from January and line up a potential free agency move in the summer of 2023. It's a big gamble by Blackburn to turn down the sort of money that these clubs were offering. But you could argue, if you're a Blackburn fan, that it's great news.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is something that clubs that want to try and get into the Premier League do. They, price out the potential suitors. And other clubs have done it, like Watford, for example, with João Pedro and Ismail Assar, and they've managed to keep hold of their prized assets. So fair play, I suppose, to Blackburn for doing the same. David, just your final thoughts on this transfer window. I would have thought you're pretty relieved that you can just have a little bit of a breather.
The most extraordinary, mind-boggling window there has ever been, from start to finish, with the likes of Erling Haaland, Darwin Núñez, Gabriel Jesus, Raheem Sterling, Kalidou Koulibaly, Marc Cucurella. The list goes on. Anthony, Lisandro Martinez, Christian Eriksen, Alexander Isak. And that's just towards the sort of top echelons. Everton, the new ownership at Newcastle and Chelsea, and Tottenham making early signings, 6 of them. Story after story. Aston Villa raided the market early and nobody's even talking about that. They made a late flurry as well. Southampton have done some brilliant business for young players. Leeds have strengthened as well. Brighton, canny operators as always. Bournemouth haven't done enough. They'll be disappointed with their window, I think. Oh, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to rest. It's been amazing. I don't think January or any other summer is going to live up to this. But then again, you never know. The spending seems to go up. The stories become more interesting. And we'll be back to do it all again on The Athletic for many, many windows and years to come.
Brilliant. David, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, rest well. It has been a very, very busy time. And David has been breaking the news all the way through it from when this transfer window opened. And even before that, deals were being done way back on June the 10th in England. So it has been an extra long transfer window in England. David, thank you. I'm not sure if we're going to have time to catch up with Phil Hay because he is coming. I'm just being told he is coming. I do apologise for the lighting. It was sort of a bit more sort of moody. It's sort of befitting of the time of the evening. And you can see the words "The Athletic" over my shoulder as well. So that is all working well. Just a quick reminder for anyone that hadn't tuned in earlier on about these deal sheets. Deals can be done all the way up until 1 o'clock. So even if we've hit the deadline, which we have now passed by 27 minutes, deals can be done up until 1 o'clock if the respective clubs sent in their paperwork. I can see on my screen down there that Phil Hay is with us, and I'm going to get to him quickly because I would have thought he's chasing lots and lots of different things, and it is still a developing situation. Phil, thank you for joining us. It's late, but it is still going on. Tell us the latest at Leeds.
It is. Well, when we spoke last, we were talking about the fact that it had become a very, very difficult day for Leeds. It looks, though, like they will finish the window with a new striker on board. We've been told that they think they found a way to get Wilfried Gnonto, 18-year-old who plays for FC Zurich in Switzerland, to get that deal over the line. That's something they were talking about earlier in the window. They weren't actually thinking of doing it in this window. It was likely to be done further down the line, either in January or next summer. And in the position they're in at the moment, they've had to change plans, essentially because they looked like they were going to be left without a forward at the deadline. And also because they've got Dan James going to Fulham. My understanding is that his loan will go through, season-long loan to Fulham, which would have left them a man down and would have left them weaker than they were this morning. What sort of part Gnonto will be able to play is difficult to say. Jesse Marsh was asked about him a couple of weeks ago and said to us that he didn't think Gnonto was necessarily Premier League ready, despite him playing in the top flight in Switzerland. He wasn't convinced that he was at that point. But he's clearly somebody that Leeds have had their eye on for a little while. And in the circumstances, it looks like this one has had to happen because of the problems they've had earlier today and also yesterday with the approach for Cody Gakpo.
And just a quick word. I mean, it's not necessarily Leeds' problem anymore because of the Bamba Dieng decision to go to Nice. Are we any closer? And I suppose it's not helpful to speculate if we don't know. But are we any closer to knowing whether this Nice deal rather than Leeds is actually able to go ahead, or is it off?
The news in France is that he's failed a medical, or at least that Dieng has had issues with the medical at Nice, which is a very weird way to cap a pretty weird saga. That's kind of come and gone very, very quickly. It blew up from nowhere this morning. Leeds very quickly onto that after it was clear that PSV weren't going to sell them Cody Gakpo. But then equally, having thought that he would fly in early this afternoon, they found that he was still in France, having been approached by Nice, and decided that that was the option he wanted to take. Given that there have been problems with the medical, you would say now that they have probably dodged a bullet with that one, or avoided a scenario where he flew into England and they found that they couldn't sign him for exactly the same reason. I have seen it written and said that Nice and Marseille might still find a way to do this, that it's possible that there will be a way of finding a resolution. But as it stands, it doesn't seem to have gone through, doesn't seem to have been agreed. So a strange day for Leeds, but a strange day for him too.
Yeah, and also a positive one, hopefully, in the end, after all his experiences, for Dan James, that this deal is going to go ahead and he's not going to have to go home in a people carrier all the way back up to Leeds like he had done, a few years back when he was dealing with Swansea and going to Leeds potentially and then having to head back to Wales.
I think so. I mean, I'm really not sure that Leeds could have pulled the plug on this one, purely because they'd seen James go through this themselves with them, and they were angry about what happened at the time, him basically being sat at Ellen Road waiting to do the deal while the deadline passed and Swansea refused to sign it off. It was part of the Amazon documentary that they did. It was quite an emotional part in that. And you know, the club have commented on it since, saying how much they regretted it, how sorry they felt for him. And I don't think it would have been a good look at all had they essentially indicated to him over the past 3 or 4 days that he was expendable and that he was the player who would be allowed to go if they could find somebody else, essentially saying, if we can improve the squad, then we can lose you. It would have been extremely hard, and I think borderline impossible, to have said to Dan James, look, you need to come back and you need to fit back into the squad, to essentially pretended that they valued him to the extent that they really wanted him to be here. So I do think in the circumstances, I do think it's for the best that he's moved on, and particularly because the move to Fulham was lined up, I think it's for the best that that's been allowed to cross the line. What would have happened if Nonto hadn't appeared, if they hadn't been able to line the Nonto deal up, is very difficult to say. But as you know, my personal view on this is that I think James will feel fairly aggrieved about the way this week has gone, and I think he'll be disappointed because he did want to stay.
Yeah, I can imagine. Phil, brilliant. Your great work as always, and it continues into the small hours. Phil Hay there covering Leeds for us at The Athletic. Thank you very much indeed. I've just been advised by the Premier League actually that there are 4 deal sheets that are in, so they are being worked on at the moment. So there will be at least 4 deals still to be done after this transfer deadline. So it means that 4 deals can be done up until 1 o'clock in the morning. We obviously know about the deal that we've just been talking about at Leeds United, a couple to be done, I think, still at Nottingham Forest, and maybe that Dan James deal as well. So those are perhaps the 4. We don't know the exact ones. There may be other ones that we're not quite aware of, and some of those deals might have already been done, and we're just waiting for them to be announced by the clubs. That is pretty much it for deadline day here at The Athletic. So we've had 84 days of transfer negotiations officially from June the 10th all the way through till September the 1st here. And we've passed the deadline. Yes, the deal sheets are in, but that is pretty much all it. We have obviously covered it all the way through the day, and you've been fantastic in covering and following our transfer deadline day blog, but there is plenty more to come on The Athletic. The deep dives into various subjects from this transfer window, reviews from the Premier League teams about the deals that did happen, the deals that didn't happen, and the whys as well. So you'll have plenty more to read on The Athletic. Coverage of the Premier League, the EFL, European football coverage in Spain, in France, in Italy, all around the world, in America as well. And yes, we've been here with our live shows on this transfer deadline day, and we are already looking forward to, I think, after a rest, doing it all again in January. Thank you very much, and thank you very much to everyone here at The Athletic for working so hard. And thank you especially to everyone at home around the world for watching our shows. Take care. And if you want to subscribe, it's theathletic.com. See you later.